everybody. Welcome to I Remember That podcast, where we dive deep into the stories that shaped our lives and culture. Today's episode is about Harry Potter, the books, the movies, the world building, and the impact the series had on a generation of fans, including us, Kris and Ian. Before we jump into the magic, though, I want to make something clear. While Harry Potter has been an important part of many people's lives, we do not align with J.K. Rowling's views, particularly her harmful and outdated stance on the trans community. Her comments don't reflect the values of this podcast or the inclusive world that we believe in. We believe that the wizarding world and the fandom belong to everybody. Trans rights are human rights, and everyone deserves to feel loved and accepted, whether you're in Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, or Ravenclaw. So with that, let's discuss Harry Potter through the lens of a nostalgic community that has reclaimed and expanded the universe beyond the books. So, Ian, with all of that uncomfortable stuff out of the way, say hi.
Hey.
What was the first thing that grabbed you in the Harry Potter world? I know obviously it was probably the books, but what was the first thing that brought you into that world?
I actually think it was the first movie, actually. I don't think I read the books until... I didn't start reading the books until the third one, so I watched the first two movies and loved it, and then I read the third book. I eventually went back and read the first two, but the movies just seemed really cool to me.
I'm curious. So I know the first book obviously came out before the movie, but... was the movie what made it go insane? So let me explain. I remember going to the book fair and I saw some teacher, maybe it was like a book fair attendant, I can't really remember. I was in 5th grade. She pulled me aside and she said, I think that you'll like this book. And no one knew Harry Potter. It was that hand-drawn original cover. I don't think it was even the cover of him flying. I think it was him in flannel holding his hair up to show the scar or something. That was the cover. But I was like, cool, wizards, all right. And my mom got it for me, and we read through the first one, and I was like, Hogwarts, that grosses me out. I don't know what that is. I couldn't pay attention. The names were too crazy, but I loved it. The what I could get out of it. 11-year-old boy with abusive parents or not parents, but situation. He gets a free ticket out of that life, and I was just like, that's a dream. All right, I get it. And then I didn't hear anything. Did the second book come out before the first movie? There was a stagger effect there for a while, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say, actually, is I have some stats that I was kind of glancing at, and it was saying that the Goblet of Fire was, hugely popular when it first came out. Like, the opening weekend in America, it sold 3 million copies. And so I was actually kind of scrolling through this same site, and it came out in July of 2000, which is just before the first movie came out, I think. So I think that they were aligning in the sense that the newer books, they had 3 books had already been published, and then the first movie had come out, and so then it started becoming popular simultaneously, the newer books and the movies. So
gotcha. Yeah, I can remember the stagger, but I think I was in 5th grade. I didn't read a lot of books either, but I love movies and video games and stuff, so I was definitely the target audience for that. Yeah, I can remember just a time right before the storm. For some reason I'd seen that first book and I had some sort of preface because my mom read it to me, and then all of a sudden it just exploded, and that's cool that I made it to the third movie. Interesting factoid, because I just bought all 3 of them. That is Goblet of Fire the third one?
That's the fourth one.
Fourth one. Third. What's the third? I know Chambers of Secrets is 2.
Yeah, third one's Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay. So that is the last one that came out on VHS. So I have all 3 of the movies on VHS, and then apparently VHS was still made in South Korea up until 2017, so there may be more in other countries, but I thought that was cool because I was looking on eBay for the whole collection, and I was like, wait a minute, this was during the time of transition into DVD.
Right.
So Did you see the first movie in theaters?
I don't think so. I actually don't remember when I started watching the movies in theaters. It might have been the third one because I read that book first, and then and I loved that one. That was my favorite book, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that might have been the first one I saw in theaters, and I honestly don't have much recollection of watching almost any of them in theaters. Maybe the fifth one, because I
Oh wow.
remember I was super hype at one point. Like after the fourth movie came out, is when I started getting access to the internet regularly, and I was like searching, like, oh, when's the next one coming out? And then I don't know. The only theater experience I have at all that I remember of Harry Potter was going to the first of Deathly Hallows Part 2 with my
Mm-hmm.
dad, and he fell asleep and he was snoring in the middle of it. I don't remember like just any like just oh my god, I had the great time and I dressed up and I just it's weird. Like I don't remember seeing them in theaters. Yeah, I probably did, but I just don't remember it.
Really? I guess I was lucky because my mom loved the book so much. So, if your parents are involved, they've got cash, so they'll take you to these things. So it was like a big deal. I mean, not a big deal, but my mom would take me and my brother. And then usually about that time, the new book would come out, and she read the first two or three to us. And then I think she gate kept the other ones, but that's okay. But yeah, so I did see every Harry Potter in theaters, and I can remember being an edgy kid and being like, "This is gonna not be good. This isn't gonna be good," and then it blew my mind every time. The last one I saw in Panama City Beach, and it really made me feel like that was like the passing of the torch. Like I'm an adult now. I think I had just graduated Roan State, or maybe I just started. But yeah, I can remember them being like old, like I was the same age as them at the time in the
Right.
last movie.
Mhm.
So it just felt like, all right, they got rid of Voldemort, so now they can be adults, and the last scene where he's old and stuff like kind of felt the same way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something I think about a lot, like when in terms of like the cultural phenomenon with our age group, is that
Mhm.
it was huge, not just because like it was like a fine story, like there's a lot of holes you can poke in it, you can find the cracks and stuff, but really it was the fact that it was such a long running story, and the movies came out, like the first movie came out, the kids were 11 years old, and so
Mhm.
were we. And then they started coming out, and like the last one came out when the kids were 17 and we were like 18 or 19 or something like that, however long it was. But either way, it's like we grew up with them. It's like
Mhm.
it's sort of like how people listen to podcasts. Now, not everybody does this, but like I listen to football podcasts, but I don't listen to just a guy saying Tom Brady threw a touchdown this week and this is like I want to hear two guys talking about football in a conversational way to where I feel like I'm part of it in some way. And that's how I
Right.
feel like why Harry Potter was so massive, is because like it was a wizard movie, but it was about the three kids growing and having friendships and relationships, and we all grew with them. Like it was for our age group, it was huge because they were like our friends.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and that's why that's why I loved it. I assume that's the thing for a lot of people too.
And it goes further with the houses. Like
Yeah.
it really gives you a sense of like, oh, you're a Ron. Oh, you're a Gryffindor. Oh, you're Hermione. That's a Hermione thing to say. But yeah, that's true. And it gave us a sense of not everything magic is gonna be good. Harry Potter's kind of deceptively dangerous if you think about it. Like when he goes and gets his wand and that he's in that sketchy bar, like they introduce that sketchiness so fast, and that
Mm-hmm.
because up until that, well, there's mystery. You don't know who Haggard is, and you trust him, but you don't know those two beginning wizards, but it lulls a sense of warm, Christmassy white owl, soft, and then there's just like that tinge of danger, like that guy that runs in, there's a troll in the dungeon, he's kind of silly. They don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, but there's really a troll, like people could die. Or that three-headed dog could have killed anyone at any time. So it was like, this is the real world, but as much magic as there is deception. It's cool.
Yeah, actually, I've never thought of it from that perspective before. Like, when you said the Hagrid thing, I was never like, I don't think I've ever watched those movies or read the books from a perspective of like, oh, we don't know who Hagrid is, but we trust him. And that's so interesting, dude. I've never thought of it like that, because like now I'm trying to think through like all the characters, and I feel like
the books may have been better at giving Hagrid such a special, so by the time we saw the movie, we already knew. So that may have been what happened, but I was thinking about that when they're at the Dudley's, Dudley's Right. I'm mixing that in with the Dudley boys of wrestling too, so I'm just lost. But those terrible people take Harry to the summer vacation home, and that scene is just really intense if you don't know who Hagrid is. Well, he's just like, come with me. I'm here to save you. And it's like, who is this guy?
Definitely from Harry's perspective. But for the audience, I think that's something about, a lot of the movies that they do to make the characters come across as like what their intentions for the most part is like.
True. And I just realized he's in the scene with Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall at the beginning.
Right.
Where she's a cat.
Yeah, like he delivers Harry, and he's crying. So.
I just forgot about that. They do introduce him as a nice person. Okay,
right. Like if that scene wasn't there, and you just saw Hagrid burst down the door, then it would be like, holy shit, who is this guy? But yeah, like since they already established him as like a nice guy, and then he brings the birthday cake, instantly we're like, okay, yeah he's cool.
Yeah, he's ready to get him out of there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, dude, so not to go out on a super side tangent, I've had this thought before, because there's like obviously in terms of movie making, you have to do certain things for the audience versus things for the characters to get them to understand their motivations and stuff. And like from Harry Potter, you see Hagrid, and he brings the birthday cake. For us as the audience, we saw him deliver Harry and cry, and he's upset. So we know he's a good guy. But Harry just has to implicitly trust him. And he probably does for most people. Like, he loves the idea of Dumbledore, even though he knows nothing about him, just because he's a great wizard. And like, but we already knew. Because we saw the scene with him. That's one thing about movie making that I always find really interesting. It bugs me sometimes is how they'll make a character act as if they knew something that the audience knew. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, like The Little Mermaid. What I want you to do is think about The Little Mermaid from Eric's perspective, Prince Eric. Okay, so we saw Ariel underwater. We saw her see the ship, and we saw her singing. But from Eric's perspective, he doesn't know anything about mermaids. There's nothing going on. All he does is he walks down to the beach one day. He sees a naked girl who can't talk. She doesn't know how to talk. She doesn't know how to walk. She uses a fork for a hairbrush. And his first thought is, dang, I want to bang this girl. That's messed up. That girl clearly, from his perspective, should be, wow, this girl is, she's traumatized or possibly even mentally handicapped. I need to get her some help. But he's like, instead, I'm going to take her on a boat and try and kiss her. And that's weird. But from the audience perspective, we don't think it is weird because we already know that stuff about her,
And doesn't she have to get a kiss to break some kind of spell? It's been a long time.
Yeah, and she does need to get the kiss.
So there is a backstory. It's not just, and I think about this sometimes, like back in the day, things were more accepted, even though they were weird. So that maybe that story was written 100 years ago, and now it's kind of getting a little dated.
Yeah.
It is creepy when you look at it in certain ways of any story, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It was just like, an audience versus character perception thing that it's always kind of bugged me. And like I said, back to Harry Potter, it's just they do a good job generally in the movies of getting us to understand character motivations and intentions. But at the end of the day, it might have made it a little more interesting if we didn't know, if we had to learn to trust him.
Yeah. Like Snape is the biggest one. He's the whole time he's getting a bad rap because he's gothic, and it's like, I wear makeup, dude. Leave me alone. I'm here to help you.
Right. Or Quirrell, the guy you mentioned earlier, he's trolls in the dungeon, but he's got the turban. When you don't give the backstories on these two characters, they become some of the most interesting ones. Like, not everything has to be a mystery necessarily, but it is cool when you don't know.
And my wife said that, I have ADHD, so I've seen these movies 1,000 times, but I always, you miss stuff. But she was saying that Quirrell comes back in the other movies, and he's like, hey, I'm back. I was a good guy all along. And, to me, I would say, get the hell out of here. Zero tolerance. But
did that happen?
I don't know. Now I wanna look it up. But
I'm pretty sure he died in the first one.
I thought so too, because he turned to dust. But apparently, Voldemort was controlling his mind, and he wasn't even a Death Eater. I don't want to say too much, because then some Harry Potter fan's gonna say, "No way, you're so wrong."
Right.
But it is cool, like the way they wrote that into characters. Like, Snape is a bad guy. He's doing that curse on him, and the whole time you're a kid, and you're just like, screw that guy. But then when you find out that he's like, is he neutral or he is good? I mean, he does kill. Oh, I shouldn't say that out loud. Spoilers.
Dude, if you haven't seen the movies by now, you shouldn't be listening to this.
I'm gonna get canceled on here. But he does what he has to do because there's an ulterior motive, right?
Right.
So it ends up being, man, there's depth to these characters. That's why we love it. There's so much lore behind every single wizard. Even if they're only in the book, like their name is in the book one time, you can probably look up 25 facts on that wizard or person. As kids, like, it's just, we're bored and we read books and we look for worlds to escape into. But yeah, that reminds me back to what you were saying about being scared to go with Hagrid. When you're in and you're in a situation of abuse and shit sucks so bad, you're stoked for anything. Hey man, I'll go wash dishes and pick up cigarette butts if you can get me out of here. So I think that he was just so treated bad that he was like, whatever. I'll be a men's room attendant somewhere, like whatever, just get me out of here. And then it turns out it's just this wonderful world where he fits in. It's like the first time he's ever fit in.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy. Like I'm kind of curious from the perspective of like, if he wasn't that popular or that famous kid, would he have fit in? Like he fit in, like he, like in the sense of like he made friends, and Ron and Hermione didn't necessarily care because they were friends with him anyways. But like it is interesting from that perspective of like, okay, he fits in, but like we already know from the beginning of the story that he's rich and famous, and it's like who's to say that they aren't sucking up to him? Because there were weirdo kids in Harry Potter that no one liked, like Luna, for example. Like, even though she was a weirdo and magical, she didn't fit in. Like people hated her, and so it's like I don't know how much it really affected his friendships, but it definitely helped.
Everyone's like narcissist. Like soul suckers, or just like what are those, Death Eaters?
Dementors.
Yeah, they're all just like human forms of that, and they're like, "Hey, man, we know you. Welcome in. We're my family and your family got along." And
right,
they're just sucky people.
Yeah, well, and
Ron.
Well, yeah, he's poor.
His parents are like, "Get in there and make friends with Harry. This is our only shot." And it's like, that's not in the books. Oh man.
No, but then there's. I was just thinking like, okay, well he proves himself in other ways, which obviously. Like I was going to say, because then, like, once he becomes such a great Quidditch player, everyone, they've got a reason to cheer for him besides the fame. But then it's like, I just realized that, like, that sucks too, because, like, oh, he has to be valuable in some way outside of being just a person. Like, oh, you're winning you're a good athlete. Thank you. Because if he sucked at being an athlete, they'd hate him.
Yeah. Or he wouldn't be, they'd be like, well, maybe he's not as popular or as important as his parents or something like that. There'd be cracks in his story. Yeah. And that makes me think like that Quidditch stuff was so randomly thrown in there. I think that she had came up with such a good idea for a sport. She was like, I want this in as much as possible, So I don't know. That is kind of random. Like it'd be cool. Or you could easily be like, Harry took out that troll in the dungeon. Okay, maybe he is as good. Like people start kind of treating him as the underdog because a lot of people thought he was not real because of this. And then you see the scar and everybody freaks out. So like if there wasn't that Quidditch angle, the troll in the dungeon, he took it out. Oh, well, maybe he is the line of, Harry Potter. That could have made it a lot longer, the first movie. But it would have been a more realistic take, like, oh, you're the coach's kid, prove yourself.
Right.
Energy.
Yeah, I've seen that in there's some things, like I feel like he's just one of those like Donald Trump type characters. Now, I'm not going back to a political thing, but like just where he's starts off rich and people all, it's like it's like instant success type stuff, it seems.
But also he never experienced as a human being, never experienced money. I mean, maybe Vernon and them had something, but not opening up a bank full of gold coins money. So I guess he wasn't like spoiled.
No, but I just mean like this, like his success is like, it just happens, like everything he does, it just becomes successful. And it's like, it was boosted. Like he walked into this world with an instant leg up, like he didn't have that growing. I mean, that's great. I'm so glad that this character who's severely traumatized, was able to experience these huge positive notes once he got to the Wizarding World. But at the same time, it's just kind of funny that like he goes in there, he's all of a sudden he's rich and he's famous and he's one of the best young athletes in the school, and it's just like everything he tries. I mean, he may not be Hermione level, magician, but he's still like, he's just good at everything all of a sudden, and it's just what the hell,
deflected a direct shot from Voldemort. I think that's a big one too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's also funny from a different perspective too, in that regardless of the Quidditch thing and being friends, is like what's revealed to him on that day. It's like it's his 11th birthday. Hagrid picks him up at midnight, and they go. He's like, "Hey, you're a wizard," and like that's a big deal. Obviously, like that's a huge thing. You're a wizard. But like,
yeah, he's kind of explaining like, hey, this is why everything is so weird. Like, this isn't normal. What is normal to you is so weird because this is why you're a wizard.
Right.
It's like trying to make a human being live in the bottom of the ocean. You're not supposed to be there. You're a fish. Or like opposite. Fish out of water. No, you're a fish. Go to the ocean. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then like there's so much more, like so many things he learns. It's like he finds out he's a wizard and his parents didn't actually die in a car crash. They were killed by an evil wizard, and that he's the only person ever to survive this killing spell. And then all of a sudden he's rich and he's going to wizarding school for 7 years. And also in London, behind this brick wall is this huge wizarding mall. And like there's just so many things that just happen to him in a day. Like all that stuff is just dumped on him in one day.
I think about that too. When I was a kid, I was like, it was so confusing, timelines. Yeah, like that was all one day, and then all this happened in a school semester, and then now he's got to go back, and it's like, why does he have to go back? He has all these people, and it all threw me off. But it does make sense. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, that's a school. It's like you go to high school and you're not staying there the whole time. Is this book just like a one big, like, if you're around the wrong people, you're miserable? Like, it's all about finding yourself, like who you really are. Like, some people never find out their true potential. If you don't have a purpose, life just becomes like hell on earth almost. Like, if you don't have a reason to do anything or to get up, like, it's just like sit in this cupboard under the stairs and don't make a sound. You annoying blah, blah, blah. You know, those people that just dig their claws into you. And then it's like, no, once you find your purpose, you're in Hogwarts now, and all this stuff makes sense, and you're around the people that back you up, and then there's these people that they understand you. You have friends, like I never thought about it that way, but it's cool symbolism there. It's just like, go find your people. Like, don't stay stuck to your family or whoever is treating you bad. It's like, there's worlds out, there are different worlds out there.
Yeah. And I think, there's that, like, I didn't realize this until I was way older. Like, this was literally like a year ago. And I've always tried to be understanding and accepting and all, of people who've gone through different things and have people, different, mental health, whatever, challenges, hurdles. Right. And it's like, there was a big part of me for a long time where Harry, he would be a dick to this person in the fourth book, and he'd be whatever, he'd be shouting in this book, and then one day, like, I would be
more
like,
in the books than the movies for sure.
yeah, but like it was just like Harry would be like whining, he'd be like a dick, and I used to think, oh my God, Harry's so annoying, what a bitch. And then for some reason, like a year or two ago, it really clicked with me. It's like that kid was like abused his entire life.
Trauma.
Like he doesn't know how to cope with it. Like no one, he's not seen a psychologist. He just, like, it's even crazier. Like you could even consider the Wizarding World traumatic too, because it's like he went from this life of abuse to being like, hey, now you have to learn a brand new world, and it's like he doesn't know how to cope with all that shit, And that's
right.
And I get it. Like, not only is he having to cope with just being abused, while in the Wizarding World, he's people are trying to murder him every year.
Yep. Yeah, everyone knows you, and you don't even know yourself.
Yeah,
like,
so
put that on a shirt. Put that on a shirt right now.
But it is good. It is layered, and that's what I do like about it. Is that it's again
realistic.
It's sort of like we said earlier. It's like, we grew up with them, and even though I grew up and I love these characters, I never even tried to understand them. Like, I just took it for face value that, oh, he's being a dick in this moment. But like, if you think about what he's gone through, like, it makes sense that he kind of sucks. Like, yeah, he sucks as a person in a lot of ways, but he doesn't know how to be a person. He's not had to,
right.
He's not developed himself. He's just thrown into everything in such a crazy, dangerous way. And it is cool how he isn't just a Luke Skywalker hero character where he's just, oh, my life sucks, but I'm just going to be a good little Jedi and love my dad anyways.
Yeah.
He's a good, like, he's layered.
It's complex.
And that it is cool. It is cool to think about.
I read a fanfic. There's two fanfics that I wouldn't bring up because this whole idea from the start was, did Harry experience this world different because he was rich or already popular? There is a bootleg, and it may not even be on sale anymore. It shouldn't be legal. But on Amazon, I was looking at Harry Potter books written by other people. And there was a book, I didn't read it, I just read the synopsis about an American wizard who goes at the same time as Harry, and he gets to, and it's his experiences through, like, it's essentially the first book, but through that guy's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't read it, but I was like, that's fascinating, because it's like we're only experiencing 1 to 3 wizards experiences at this school, and one of them happens to be the most popular wizard ever. So I think that a good show or miniseries with just like those events happening indirectly with somebody that's in like Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff, that would be cool. But the other fan fiction I read is what if Harry made up this entire elusive world in his head? It's all trauma. He's still in that cupboard. And they're, that's why they're so mad at him, because he's always talking about magic and wizards, and Vernon's like, dude, get a job. What are you talking about? Your parents died. That's super sad to think about that way, but if it helps people, and then it's good.
Right.
But so I do have some facts here. Financial, it kind of makes me sick. So there's been 500 million books sold worldwide. This is in 2018, so it's kind of old now that I see this, but they've made $7.7 billion in book sales. They've sold, doesn't say how many movies, but at the box office, Harry Potter movies have made $8.5 billion worldwide. That's a lot of enchilada.
Yeah, dude.
Like 1 billion is a lot of money. Like 8.5. So, and then if you scooped all of Harry Potter together franchise, it would be worth $25 billion. That's like the economy of a bunch of countries put together. So it makes me sad that someone so bad, we talked about in the beginning, has so much money. It's kind of hard to rebel against that. But it does make sense that it's that much because it is such a cultural phenomenon. But I was very shocked that it hit billions.
Really?
Well, not shocked, but I was surprised. I was like, oh, yeah, wow, that does make sense. Because like now I want to know, like, what's something comparable? Like, let's do Star Wars.
I think...
Yeah, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Every global box office revenue ranged from $392 million to $2.1 billion. every Star Wars movie has been a success. That's not directly the same stats, but it looks like, okay, here we go. A 4.8 billion, sorry. It looks like Harry Potter has made more money than Star Wars.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta think like, I mean, what do you mean, like the movies or the books? Like,
I
or
guess
like in
it's
total?
it's hard to, I would have to like write, I'm on the podcast here, so I don't want to take all the time, but the numbers are different for the Harry Potter facts than they are the Star Wars facts. So I'm kind of doing some math here as we go, but it looks like it to me as far as just the movies. But there were Star Wars books and games and stuff, so I wish I had that number.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Harry Potter. What we're saying is it was insane in amount of money.
Yeah, and J.K. Rowling has, she's I think deservingly super rich. She made something, very, very, very popular, and I get that. We're not
She
gonna
was homeless too.
do
I
what?
think. I thought, wasn't she homeless too? Wasn't that the big thing?
Maybe, I don't know. It's one of those things. I feel like even if she was, like, I wouldn't believe it if they told me that, because like many
Good call.
there's so many sensationalist stories nowadays with like every celebrity. It's like, you ever hear about these guys that are like, how many athletes have you heard of were like, oh, when I was 2 years old, I was diagnosed with a degenerative disease that I would never walk again, but now I'm the best football player in the world. It's like, bullshit, dude.
Right.
That didn't happen. And same thing with like, okay, I think I've heard 3 different celebrities say that they were supposed to be on the 9/11 flight, but they missed it because they were taking a shit
I've
or
heard that a
something.
lot.
And it's like,
Right.
you were not supposed to be on that flight. Stop making the death of 2,000 people about you. That's so
Yeah, sell some
stupid.
books. Did you play any of the Harry Potter video games? I mean, we should probably talk about the lore, but that was a big one for me. Those games growing up. So I wanted to know if you played any.
Brother, we did. Remember when we lived together and we
That's
played
what I
that Quidditch
thought.
World Cup game?
Yeah, and they recently put out a new one.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you
thought
told me
that-
about that.
It's okay. I only played a little bit, but
Bummer.
no, sorry, I don't want to be negative. It's a little different than the OG one, but that one was sweet. And
Yeah.
very creative. But I can remember, and they're so bad now, but like those PlayStation 1 Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, you play through the first book and you get all the chocolate frogs and the jelly beans and stuff. Like, it's dated so bad, but those games are pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Like as they're coming out with the movies.
Yeah, I played maybe one of those. Didn't really have. I ended up playing, which I find more fun, was the Harry Potter Lego games. Those are fun.
Oh, way better.
Yeah, those had a more. Those probably won't be dated anytime soon. They have like a good style to them.
Yeah, and I have the 2-pack, or no, it's like the whole shebang on Switch, and it's all the books or whichever games that came out. No, it's all of them, and I think that does a better job as explaining the story than those games I was telling you about, the PS1 games, like. And Star Wars, for that matter, too. Lego does really good at explaining to kids what's going on in a silly, non-scary way, even if it is a scary thing going on, like fighting Voldemort and stuff, and there's like little side jokes. I think that's super creative and cool.
Yeah, I do too. I like those games. I like the tone of them. I tried. My sister got me Hogwarts Legacy for my birthday last year, and that's one that like. I started playing it. I played probably for an hour, and then like, I don't know. There was something weird with like my Switch. My Joy-Cons. I don't know if your Joy-Cons do this. They have the drift, and it kind of was getting a little hard to play. So I didn't for a minute. I ended up putting it down.
You played it on Switch. Wow.
Yeah, and that's all I have. No, I have a PS3, but I don't play it that much.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Or no, PS4. Do I have a PS4? I don't know. But either way, it's I did play it on my Switch, and it was like drifty and stuff. So I decided like, okay, I'm gonna wait and hold off until I got this other controller. And then it just kind of I lost interest, which is weird because you'd think like I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I just I guess I lost interest and never went back to it. I ended up selling it, so I really don't know. I never really played it, but a lot of people seem to like it.
It was cool and graphically it was great. To me, it just felt like a tutorial, a Hogwarts walk, hold my hand as we go through this entire game, and I was just like, oh, I want to just it was cool and world building. But it didn't hold my attention. But I liked watching, like my wife would play it, and I liked watching her play it. It was, it was good graphics and great gameplay and stuff. I don't know, myself, I was just like, it's like Skyrim and stuff where they're just like, here's this little tiny bit of story, go crazy, you can do your own thing. And I was hoping it was more of that.
Yeah. Dude,
it's still good.
I've had this same mentality. I don't know if it's exactly what you mean, but like in terms of, maybe in terms of lore, but like in terms of gameplay, for me, the way I've always liked playing games is I wish this was an option more often, because so many games, like Pokemon, for example, every Pokemon game starts off like a 2-hour tutorial. It's like, we know how to catch a damn Pokemon by now, dude.
Yeah.
But like, there's so many games. Like a new Mario game, I almost prefer to be thrown into like level 9 first and have to die like 20 times figuring out how to get out of this bind. And then teach myself, throw me in the deep end, but then I can go back, and then all of a sudden level 1 through 8 are easy because I know what I'm doing. But like, I would rather just be taught, aggressively, rather than have to just sit through tutorial. Like, quit making me press X. Like, dude, stop. Just let me do it. Let me play the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how Elden Ring is. If you're familiar with that game. It's like there's every enemy is a boss pretty much, and they don't care if you're good or bad. You gotta, if you want to quit, give up. Who cares? We don't care about you. You're not good. Like the DLC you can buy right now, you can't even play it. You can buy it, but you can't play it until you beat 2 of the biggest bosses on the game.
Damn, that's awesome.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We don't care if you play our game.
That's cool.
Yeah, I am used to that now, so I'm like, I don't need this long tutorial, but it was still fine. It's a Harry Potter game is for Harry Potter fans, not necessarily for your gamers, so I rationalize that.
Yeah, well, I guess that's why, like, for me, I'm a Harry Potter fan, but I don't even necessarily consider myself a gamer, but I do prefer the games. The games I'm used to are Mario and Pokemon, where it's like there's really not much tutorial needed for those type of games. It's like, for the most part, they're simplistic enough to just play. But yeah, like the first bit that I did play of Legacy, I was like, let me just freaking, like, just let me do it,
Yeah, skip through the dialogue and all this, and tomato or whatever. Yeah. Everybody's different strokes. But I guess back to the lore, there's this, it's funny, as an ADHD Harry Potter fan, I always create holes for myself. Like, my wife got she didn't get frustrated with me, but she was like, you don't know this? And I was just like, and then I said, isn't it fun as a Harry Potter fan to have somebody that doesn't know and you get to explain it? Like, am I not doing you a favor? But, so for example, I always forget why Harry looks in the mirror and he has the stone in his pocket, and then why Harry can burn Quirrell. And there's always little stuff like that, like, why did you show up like as a deer? And it's so cool to have like a really good Harry Potter fan fill in those gaps, because no matter how many times I ask, those are some of the things that I'm like, I just can't remember how that happened.
Right.
I know that you are the real deal Harry Potter fan, so it may be different for you.
I guess it's sort of like myself. I'm like your wife, where I'm the one explaining things to people often, and I don't want to. I try not to be pretentious about it, like, because there's certain things I've got knowledge on, like with Pokemon, Harry Potter, football, where I'm like, I don't, comic books, like I don't want to just be like, oh, did you know that Aragorn broke his toe when he kicked the helmet? Like, I don't want to be like that guy all the time, but I do, like, if someone asks a question, I do love being right there to answer it, for sure. And my kids are there, but at the same time, it's sort of like with what you're talking about with you've seen them all, and you just don't remember, but like I do the opposite, where like my daughter, who's 11, when she comes and asks me a question in the middle of the first time she's watched the movie, I'm like, like with anything, just watch the damn movie and you'll find out, probably,
Fair. I've heard that so many times in my life. Yeah, it's just like with Harry Potter, you'll be like, you'll have a question, and then they'll be like, well, they explained it better in the book. And it's like, oh, I didn't. I read the book in fifth grade. Like, ugh. I don't know. It's cool. That it just shows you how good the world building is, that there are questions like that, like fringe stuff.
Yeah. One thing about like the world building that's interesting, I don't know if it's technically good writing or not, is just like how each book adds a new element and a deeper thing each time. Something that could have happened or could have existed in the previous one. Like some of it is there, some of it's there. Like Thestrals, for example, you'll see the carriages moving by themselves in the first one, and that's interesting. And finding out what they are in the fifth one is cool. But like there are some where it's like it seems like the world is basically at its peak or whatever in the second one, and they just keep adding new things, almost like a video game. And it's like, you know, I guess, you know, I kind of wish it was like there was more. You introduced it all early, but didn't explain it until later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I guess that it's, you know, it's always like, oh, remember that bathroom you've walked by 100 times? Well, this year it's where Moaning Myrtle is,
right?
Or like, oh, you're not allowed in the restricted section, and then that's all of a sudden it's there. Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to establish stuff so early.
Yeah, it is cool. Like I do like all the new things they give us, and part of me wishes the things were introduced since it's a school in like a classroom setting where it's like you just didn't know about it because you were in a school, but also that's where you could learn about it. But you know, they're just like, oh yeah, this thing, it didn't exist, but now it does, and fucking figure it out, you know. But whatever.
Yeah, they're kind of gaslighting the students. They're like, you don't know about that? You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I've been here like 3 days. I don't even know where the bathroom is, like to go to the bathroom. There's ghosts everywhere. Like, where do I get food? There's no snack machines. Like,
dude, and one of the worst things to me, and I hate that this bugs me so much, is, and this isn't something that it wasn't written poorly. This is just a continuity thing because of the movies, is that like in the first two movies, when you go to Hagrid's hut, it's like there's this big flat perfectly manicured lawn across the front of right outside the Forbidden Forest, and then in the third one, all of a sudden it's on the side of this fucking rocky hill, and it's like all dingy and shitty looking. It's like it looks entirely different. It's like, I understand it's like a new director and like different tone, but it looks like a totally different place, like
that's
the whole
true.
thing.
And that reminds me of the changes in Dumbledore, and maybe it was the director change. Now that I think about it, it kind of worked for the better, because like I said in the beginning, the Harry Potter world was shown so comfortable, so soft. Everything felt like a soft blanket on you, and then all of a sudden it's like, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, you asshole? And it's just like changes, and it's good. It's so gritty. It's a lot more gritty, and it kind of shows the progression of age in the setting. Like as a kid, you're seeing it through the lenses of a kid, so everything's all whoa, mystical. And then as you get older, you're like, there are bad people, and I have the tools now to stop them. So it kind of takes off those rose-colored glasses and it's the audience is growing with the characters, and see, like, you notice the subtle changes and darkness and trees that can kill you, and you know, like, because at first when Ron shows up with that car to get Harry, you know, you're bummed out he's not going to get to go. The bars are on the window, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, Ron. And then they're almost dying like every 3 seconds until they get to Hogwarts, and then the tree screws them up, and it's like, that's pretty intense. And the whole time you're thinking, you know, Ron got him to, you know, Hogwarts, but are they going to die?
Right. Well, and
kind of neutral.
Well, and it's funny too, because, you know, in the first one with the troll, and then the second one with the tree, and then the third one, well, they have to fight the tree again to get to, like, you know, Sirius is taking them down that, or they're
right.
Whatever happens, like they're going into the base of the tree, but yeah, like eventually, like as these sort of like boss fights happen, the first handful of movies are like kind of funny in tone. They're like dangerous, but lighthearted and funny. But then as the movies progress, they're not funny anymore. It's like they're like dark, and people are getting killed, and it's messed up, you know. And
like Death Eaters, like that's the most traumatizing thing ever. Is like it's sucking all the good out of you, and until you just lay down depressed. It's like,
yeah.
Just dial it in a little bit, man. Jeez.
Yeah, but I will say real quick is just because you mentioned it, and I don't know, maybe you didn't know this. This is kind of be kind of fun if this is the first place you learned it, but Dumbledore changed because the actor died.
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay, sorry.
But I meant in terms of the the tone and feel, like when you said it was like the perfect storm. There was like director change, actor change, and most of the time I would bet that that's going to tank a film, but it worked for some reason. Like if it would have been opposite, if the movies would have been gritty at the beginning and then soft, it would have been different. I'll say that. I won't say it would be good or bad. It would just be way different.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes with other movie franchises where it's like you have a trilogy or more even, and you've got like people complain about the Star Wars sequels, the latest three, episodes 7, 8, and 9, and it's like one of the biggest complaints about it is that it feels disjointed because there's it was originally 3 different directors, ended up being J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and then Abrams again in the third one, but it's like people were complaining because the continuity was off, or at least like the story. And the way I understand it is the way it was created was they didn't have like a set trilogy planned out among the 3, and then they just did it their own styles. They just kind of did their own movie as it came, and it really screwed up with each other's visions. And so like that's why I feel like with Harry Potter, like you were saying, it probably worked super well. It didn't tank it because like there was a set. Like you've got a story to go off of. You can do a different tone and that whatever, but like at least there's, you can't just make up your own villain and your own, backstory. Like you have to follow this guideline, but you can do your tone. And they did a really good job, I think. Like you said earlier, it's like, as it grows, it gets more gritty, through the eyes of growth and age. I do love that each movie, it starts off super soft, and then by the end of it, it's nowhere, like the tone is in. If you were to go from, watching the movies, it doesn't feel so jarring, but if you were to watch the first movie, Sorcerer's Stone, and then Deathly Hallows Part 2 back to back, it'd be like, holy shit, this is the same franchise? Like, right. But yeah. it grows super well.
And also, not to rip on the original Dumbledore, but in the beginning, we needed a soft spoken, chill, strong wind could knock him over, real soft, almost like a god figure,
like grandpa.
But at the end, Dumbledore actually starts kicking ass, and he's doing stuff and like running around and Order of the Phoenix and all that. I don't think that old soft spoken guy could have handled all that. So I agree. It kind of worked out perfectly. Like, man.
Right. And it's like up to the director's interpretation, which it not to say I'm glad the actor died, but it's like it does benefit the series that the Dumbledore they replaced him with was a little bit more active. Yeah. No, I like that. I totally agree. They did change him a little bit too. Like they could have made him a little bit cooler. Like they did make him kind of an asshole, but like at least he was a lot more realistic of a person based on what he's been through.
Right. I thought that was pretty cool. Did you watch any of the Fantastic Beasts series? I saw the first one. I didn't see any of the other ones.
Yeah, I've seen them all. They're whatever, they're fun world building movies, I guess. I don't really care for them, but
yeah, I just thought I was so excited that it was like a American Wizards, and then I was just like, this isn't that fun.
No, it's really not. There's something more fun about them being British and it being in a castle and stuff.
It makes it more magical, yeah. Speaking
of spin-offs, did you ever, I assume your wife did based on what you've been saying about her, but did you ever read The Cursed Child?
No, I can see the cover in my head. Was that about Harry's kid?
Yeah, it's Harry like 18 years in the future, however old he is, and he's got 3 kids? Something like that. He's got a couple kids, and one of his it's based around one of his children going to Hogwarts, and of course, fucking Harry's son becomes best friends with Draco's son. It's like, okay,
nice, love it. But that makes sense.
It's not great. Like it's like for what it is, it's the story feels really tacked on and silly, but and I mean, technically, it is just tacked on. But I actually saw the play. I was in New York last year with my sister for her birthday, and I took her to see it on Broadway, and it was really fun.
That's badass.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool. But it was the story itself, though. Like in terms of like connected to the original series, it sucks. Like, really, I mean, I hate to say that, but it's just not the same. It's not as good.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to, especially with Star Wars. It's just like, I mean, I like everything Star Wars. I don't care if it's bad. It's still a chance to get into that world. But it's kind of like that. It's kind of like, well, this was not good, but it is another chance to dive into the world of Harry Potter or whatever.
Right.
So was there anything that you wanted to experience the most in the Harry Potter world? Like something that they did that you thought would be cool?
I don't know if I ever really thought of that, but I think off the top of my head, like, and it's weird because they make it seem so, they say it's rare in the book, but then all of a sudden it's like everyone can do it. Is like there's that handful of people who can turn into animals, the animagus, and that's really cool. There's like, because Harry's dad, Sirius, and Pettigrew, they can all turn into animals, as well as McGonagall. And this isn't in the movies, but the journalist lady, Rita Skeeter, she can turn into a beetle in the books.
Oh.
And that's how she gets like, that's like ends
Those
up
pictures.
Do what?
She's the one who's getting all of the, like, how did they find that out so fast? I remember reading that in the book. I don't remember which book though. Was it the third one?
It was Goblet of Fire, the fourth one. And that was a fun twist, yeah, like where it's just like this character, how's she getting this information? And it was cool, the idea that she was just a beetle, a fly, basically a fly on the wall. And so I think that would be fun, just the idea of like, how do you, I don't know how to describe it, like what does that feel like, your body being that different, like especially your different size, like it's one thing, you could to go, from your big self to being the size of a rat, or even crazier to me is like, you all of a sudden now you're the size of a deer. You're a deer. Like, that's crazy.
Like you've added mass. Yeah.
Yeah.
The easy explanation is it's magic.
Yeah.
That's all I can think about or say. I wouldn't know, but that's a good question. Like, how would that feel?
Yeah, and just like I would, seeing through the eyes of it, as well as like, is it like in cartoons where it's like when you hear a dog in a cartoon, the humans hear the barking, but the dogs hear people voices. Like is it like when Sirius is a dog, is he just saying words, but they come out as barks, Like, I don't know. It seems like a fun thing to be a part of,
And I'm sitting here trying to, like, there's so many. Like, I want to explore Hogwarts. Like, I don't care if I'd get in trouble. Like, the Skirmerhorn here in Nashville, it's like a venue for classical music. Well, they did a free day of music where you could just go in to the main hall and see orchestras all day for free. Well, it's like an old church feel, like old building, 200 years old. I don't know how old, but anyway, when I went in there, I was like, this feels like Hogwarts. I'm going to explore. And I was just by myself, and I ended up, there is seats behind the orchestra, so you can see a concert, but from behind. It's kind of unique. I walked up there. You could see me in the seats by myself. I walked back through the offices. I was like, they're going to tell me to go home, and I'll go home. That's fine. This is beautiful, and I want to explore. So I walked around the entire Skirmerhorn. I don't know how I didn't get in trouble, but it made me feel like I'm going to end up finding like the Chamber of Secrets or something. But also, I would like to experience going through the 9 3/4.
Yeah.
Like, he asked the cop, like, hey, buddy, where's this at? And the cop's like, you're an idiot. And that whole, it's almost like the first time where it's like you have to believe or it won't happen. And it's the first time he's experienced, other than the snake, he's experienced magic. So it's like, oh, this is real. Like, I just went through that brick wall. Cool. So I think that would be cool. And just the whole train ride. You don't even know these people, but they're all excited as well. That was probably cool.
I don't want to go on a tangent, but it's like, now I'm thinking about it, dude. It's like, I think that non-magic folk can go through the portal to 9 3/4, and it's like,
really?
Well, I think so, because I want to say Hermione's parents at some point did, and it's like, I don't know, dude. It's just it's wild.
Maybe like they walked her to the station.
Right.
Like at an airport, and before 9/11, you could walk people all the way to the terminal, like the gate.
Right.
Maybe that's what they're insinuating?
Dude,
Okay.
like when you could just run onto an airplane and profess your love to somebody before 9/11.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
yeah, but yeah, it's like I think that non-magic like muggles can go through the to the platform, and it's kind of crazy. Like, was there somebody who is unrelated to the Hogwarts, or I mean the magic world, who just like tripped and fell or like leaned against the wrong wall?
Yeah.
And they probably got their memory wiped. That happens, but it's just kind of funny to think, like, how fucking wild would that be?
Yeah, and you'd think that they would have like made a little snarky joke about that. Like, another human has fallen into 9 3/4. Don't let it happen to you. Silliness.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's that is a fun thing too. And real quick, I know we're getting running short on time, but you got me thinking. Have you been to the Wizarding World in Universal Studios?
No.
Dude, it's
nobody likes
best.
me enough to take me to those things, man. I cannot wait though. It looks so fun. So you've been?
I've been twice. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Is it? So it's not acres and acres and acres of land. It's like everything is kind of conjoined, right? Like Hogwarts, Hogsmeade, other places. Like, go ahead, you explain. I've never been.
Well, no, there's two areas. So it's like there's one area that's Diagon Alley where it's like the big, and it's dude, they did it perfectly where it's like you walk through this like thing, like you don't, bricks don't transform, but once you walk through this thing and you look, it's just like when Harry sees it for the first time, and it's like you look down and there's all the shops and there's the Gringotts at the end, and it's perfect. Dude, I legit cried a little. It was crazy.
I would.
And so you walk down there and there's like, you can go in the shops and you can do, there's like a wand, somebody gets presented a wand ceremony and there's a whole thing. But then there's I think you have to pay for this, if I remember correctly. It might be like a two park pass thing. I don't remember, where like you can take the Hogwarts Express over to the other part and you get to Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. And what I'm excited for is I want to go back again at some point when they're done with this, because when I went, like they did have like some really great stuff, some rides and some shops and stuff. But what I'm pretty sure they're working on right now is a giant interactive Hogwarts. Like they had one that's like I think like the shell of it, like you can see Hogwarts, but you can't go like into Hogwarts. But like, and that's like what I want, like kind of what you were saying, dude. Like I don't even care if it's a ride. I just want a giant explorable Hogwarts.
Right.
That's all.
Like, yeah, like I love exploration, and it's not like a getting in trouble kind of thing. It's just like let me physically experience what I've painted in my head, as best as possible.
Yeah. And so it is cool.
Yeah, that stuff blows my mind.
Yeah, you and Grace, I think like if you guys ever plan to go at some point, like I would keep up with the updates on the thing that they're building, because it was under construction last time we went, I think, and it was like keep up with that when that's done and ready to go, and then maybe give it a couple months so it's not like flooded with people. But
right,
dude, I would go. It's great. It's such a fun experience, dude, for sure.
Is it Is there enough that you need to dedicate a day to the Harry Potter, or is it like a side thing that you go in and then come back out?
I would dedicate a whole day to it. Yeah, like because when we went to Universal, my wife and I, this was 6 years ago of the first time we went, and we got 3 days at Universal, but we had like multi-park pass, all this stuff, and we went. I would say we probably did spend one whole day there, like collectively. We went back a second time even, like, but we, and it is fun to have like, the other accessible Universal stuff.
Well, that wraps up our episode of Harry Potter and the nostalgic look inside the world, the books, the movies, the cultural phenomenon. We know that you know what Harry Potter is, so you probably loved it, hated it, you had an emotional reaction, and that just shows how big it was. Thanks for joining us, and as always, we'll have another episode for you very soon, and we are probably on your favorite social media platform now, and you can also find our music at the link in the description below. We've got everything together now, so enjoy, and we hope you have a great day, and try to remember some stuff. Thanks.